we're just going to move into the next part of the service. It's not a service in the evening, actually. But yeah, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about Sisterhood in Action now. And why we do it, really. So it was so amazing to see how many donations were given on the way in there. We are blown away by your generosity. As you can see, I brought tiny little baskets, and they are filled and more so. So it's a good problem to have when the baskets are too small. But thank you so much for your generosity. So why do we do Sisterhood in Action? So basically, what does sisterhood mean? It means standing together, never standing alone, and it's a community of women who love, comfort, support each other and encourage each other. So with Sisterhood in Action, we want to practically support charities in our community. So this year we picked, for this one, we picked Cradle NI and Baby Basics. And I just want to invite Shelley and Cherith up now to talk a wee bit more about it. So give them a round of applause as they come up. So we'll start with you, Shelley. So can you tell us a little bit about Baby Basics and what impact tonight's gifts will have on the community?
So Baby Basics are a very small little community or committee of 4 at the moment, that the one in specific we are looking after, which is out of the Apple Blossom unit. So they started in autumn 2019, and essentially what they look after is anyone who is fleeing domestic abuse, teenage mums, anybody who has been trafficked, or anyone who has even suddenly become pregnant and maybe just don't have funds to buy baby things. So I'm not sure if that's on the behind me. Yes, so all of these things here are really, really vital to anybody who is a new mum. So basically, they get their referrals from midwives, health visitors, doctors, and district nurses. So it is through the referral process that these women are then passed over to Baby Basics, and then Baby Basics provide the goods to them. Honestly, there is so much I could tell you about it, but to give you a very brief glimpse into referrals, 2021 they had 25. 2023 there's been 72. So it is just rapidly growing, and what a pleasure it is that we get to provide for them this evening. It's just so lovely.
Yeah. Round of applause. Thank you so much, Shelley. And then, Cherith, I just want to ask you, same question. Can you tell us what Cradle NI represents and what impact it will have on women who have experienced miscarriage?
Thank you, Rachel. Hello everyone, my name is Cherith and I attend Aria Church here, and one of the charities that we're supporting here tonight is Cradle, and so I wanted to speak for a few minutes to you about this. Just a trigger warning, I will be talking about miscarriage and baby loss. Cradle is a charity that provides support to parents who have lost a baby before 24 weeks, and losing a baby is a very traumatic experience emotionally, physically and mentally, and the impact of it lasts a lifetime. I myself have had 2 miscarriages in September 2021 and then again in December 2021. The charity Cradle was only being set up in the Southern Trust at this time, so unfortunately I wasn't able to avail of this charity. But since I have heard about this charity, I have been wanting to tell everyone I know about it because it is so great. But during those dark days of grief and loss, during the miscarriages, I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't even pray. And it was a difficult journey, but with my family and friends, they were able to pray for me, and it was through their prayers, my faith in God, and my trust in God, and ultimately God's help, that was able to pull me up from the pit and into peace with God again. And as we were talking about hope this evening, I realised and accepted that Jesus is my only hope, and that's how I got through. Now, Cradle isn't a Christian charity, but this charity believes, like Christians, that each pregnancy, no matter how many weeks, is a life created by God. And Cradle recognises the significance of baby loss to both mothers and fathers, and they provide practical support to parents. And I brought a comfort bag with me here tonight. So the donations that you've donated tonight, the toothbrushes, wipes, whatever you've donated, These items will be all sorted through, and each one will go into one of these comfort bags, which will be given to mums in hospital. Because unfortunately, these mums go into unexpected labour and surgery that wasn't planned, so they don't have time to gather these items. And Cradle also, as long as helping women and men practically, they have a Connect Zoom call to help those affected by baby loss. So if you go onto the Cradle website, there's a few resources there. And I have been in one of these Zoom calls myself, and it was very good to talk to other mums who understand this loss and the impact that it has on our lives. And trained counsellors are also on this call, and it's a good way to talk about your loss. But if you ever do need prayer and support going through the loss of miscarriage, please come and speak to me at any time. I want to be able to use my pain and my experience to help other women. And even if you yourself don't experience a miscarriage, unfortunately you will know someone who has gone through it or who will go through it, because 1 in 4 women experience miscarriages. And so I want to be able to help support you or help support someone you know through prayer or through practical support, because sometimes we don't know what to say. So it's good to get speaking to someone who does know what to say. And often those who experience baby loss are forgotten. So I'm so appreciative that Sisterhood has chosen to support Cradle as one of their charities. Thank you so much for all the donations. I'm honestly blown away by the donations at the door, and I've been in touch with the bereavement midwife at Craigavon, and she has been so excited that we're supporting this charity, because sadly they don't really get very many donations. So I've taken a few photos out there, so she'll be pleased to see the donations. So thank you very much. The bereavement team at Craigavon Hospital and the parents who have sadly lost babies will appreciate these donations, and these mums and dads are going to feel so loved. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ladies. So, yeah, as Shelley and Sheriff have said, the donations will really help a lot of ladies in very difficult seasons of their life. But if you haven't donated already and you would like to, there is still another opportunity. On Sunday, we're still collecting. So there's actually 2 services, so 2 opportunities, both in the morning and the evening. So if you would still like to donate, the list of what we are collecting is on the Sisterhood post on Facebook or Instagram. And yeah, we can collect those and get them delivered over to Baby Basics and Cradle NI. But again, thank you for listening, and we will move on to our amazing panel now.
That was amazing. Charith, you could just take over for the night. That was really good, amazing, and I certainly didn't know about Cradle NI, so whenever it was brought to our attention, yeah, it's definitely something we could maybe help out on a more recurring basis rather than just a one-off. But thank you again. Girls, where are you? Why am I sitting up here by myself? And you've all got, and then one more. Fab, Sasha, you've got another mic. And then you can have mine, Lynn. Amazing. So for those of you who have never been to Sisterhood before, or have never been to church before, simply just want to give, I know there's a lot of new people here since we've started out doing Sisterhood, so I just wanted to give just a wee bit of background what it is. And for us women, we live such busy lives. We all come from different backgrounds. Some of us have kids, some of us have teenagers, some of us, the kids, as Mum would say, flee the nest, whatever. But we're multitasking all the time. We're cooking, we're cleaning, we're working, we're coming home. And usually we are not putting ourselves first a lot of the time. And so our vision as a church is we want this ministry to be a space where we can come and uplift you and encourage you together as a body of women. And really, we need to be surrounded by many different types of women in our life. And one thing that really stood out to me was about 10 years I was at a women's conference, and she really said you need 3 types of ladies in your life as we walk through and journey through different seasons. And she was like, firstly, we need women who have been further along the road than us, who have gained a wee bit more life experience, because through that they have wisdom and they can impart into a lot of us to make maybe correct decisions and maybe guide us on the right path. Secondly, for women who are present in our lives right now, all our girly girls, all the girls we go for lunch dates with, they're so vital to how we stay the path. And to be encouraged, and probably to give us some bold talks that we need to sort of get us back on track sometimes when we find that maybe situations are shaking us up. And then thirdly, there's a generation coming up behind us. All the girls in school, my daughter's P5, and some of the things she comes home with now, I'm like, oh my word, I need to like buckle up here, because some of these conversations I didn't think I was going to get them so soon. But we have an incredible generation coming up, and we need to fight for them as well. But if we're going to fight for them, we need to be in the best place ourselves in order to reach them. And so tonight we have three amazing ladies who have all had a journey. Different situations they've all walked through, but the one thing that stands out to me is they've had courage. And I wanted to quickly touch on, if you're familiar with Esther in the Bible, she was a young Jewish girl who was an orphan. And the story of her was how she became queen of her generation, but it was because she followed a God opportunity in the most powerful kingdom that she was present at that time. And you see, Esther used her position to save her people. She was ready for such a time as this. And sometimes we can miss God opportunities because they often present to us in obstacles, in hardships, and getting stuck in seasons. And a lot of the times we can get into complaining about what we're going through, and it's uncomfortable, and I get it. Life is hard. But I guess it's trying to shift the perspective of, hey, what could God do in me in this season? How can He work through me? What gold can He pull out of me that will help people in the next season that I walk through? And we're all going to come up against problems and circumstances, and we may not understand it, but God wants to use our struggle to propel us into new opportunities, bigger than ourselves. And so our strength lies in sharing testimonies, and that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to hear some incredible wisdom of these ladies who have walked through hardship, but they've been impacted, and they're courageously sharing their testimony because they're using what God has, or what life has made for bad, God has turned it around for good. And so I am just going to start off, and the lovely Lynn is beside me, and tell a little bit about yourself. You've got a mic, you.
Wow, is this working, yeah? I can't actually believe I'm sitting here amongst all these lovely young ladies. But yes, every single one of us has something incredible that goes on in our lives that we can share. And as you know, my name's Lynn. I just celebrated my 60th birthday.
Woo!
And I honestly am so blessed, and I don't want to get emotional tonight. That's the biggest challenge for me, because I am so blessed and because I have gone through so much stuff. I've got 6 children, and the consequence of that is I have 12 grandchildren. And they're the most beautiful humans. And I tell you, so blessed and sometimes very exhausted. But I work as a social worker in the local hospital here, and I've been in social work for quite some time. I love my job, I hate my job, if that makes sense. But again, I'm very blessed to have a job. And I've still got one of those children at home, and life has been with so much challenge as a parent, but sure, we'll touch on that maybe a wee bit as we move on.
Amazing. Natalie, do you want to share just a wee bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Natalie. I am from all over the world. I've lived in 4 countries so far. And Yeah, I've got a son and a husband who is from here, which is why I'm here. And yeah, there you go.
Oh, you've got one. I'm still okay on my own mic. Is it working? Yeah. Okay, ladies, hello. My name is Anna, and I'm originally from Poland. I've been living here for 10 years. I'm married to my lovely husband, Phil, who has been a pastor here. And I am a biomedical scientist from Monday to Friday. And I'm from a Catholic background, and God actually found me when I was on my knees, not knowing where my life would go. So I'm so thankful that He did. And looking back, I actually don't like the person I used to be. And you know, when you hear Christian lingo, when people say you are a new creation, I really am a new creation. I have a new heart, and I'm a completely different person. I am so thankful that God did found me, and it's been 6 years since I've become a Christian, and it's been the best 6 years of my life, despite some troubles, I suppose.
Amazing, Anna. That's so good. Well, we'll come back to Lynn here. When did your journey, your relationship with God begin? And can you share a pivotal moment in your faith journey where you felt God showed up, where He was most present?
Oh, that's a lot of stuff. I was always a curious child and a wee bit of a dreamer. I still am, actually, to be fair. But I always had a real curiosity about God. I wasn't born into a Christian home, but a great home, really well raised. But when I was 3, I went to Sunday school. And my Sunday school teacher just had me in awe. And it was just how she carried herself. It was everything about her. She was such an example of who Jesus is in her life, and I just grew to respect her so much. But not being in a Christian home, you know, you would go to church and Sunday school or that. There's a wee neighbour brought me to church. My family didn't go to church. And through time, went through the normal teenage difficulties, and by 15, I had been basically asked to leave school. And I suppose that's what the term being expelled from school, because I was just becoming really, really difficult. However, I knew myself I wasn't a bad person, and I just didn't get all this drama that was going on. I just was, I suppose, mixed up. And I'd been brought up in the country, and I went to the town to school, and we never went to the town. And I was like, woohoo, this is the life, you know. So that sort of just led on to a lot of other issues where I got a job in town, I wanted to stay at my friend's house, allegedly, and all sorts of things. So you can just work it all out for yourselves. So at 15, I was just in a really reckless place as a teenager. And then God, by His grace and His mercy, He'd always had His hand on my life. I look back now at this age, and I look back and I think, wow, He just had me on His mind from the word go. It was part of His plan. And at 15, I gave my life to God. So to have been behaving the way I was in school, and then to go to school on a Monday morning, by the time I hit the playground, everybody knew this girl had got saved, and they were just, and I was buzzing. I was absolutely buzzing, because all these stories and God's word just all of a sudden just started to be so real. And I was excited. I would read the Bible and I'd be excited. So the first thing that really impacted me was when I read, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel." And I was like, wow, that's what I'm going to do. That's it. I'm going to be a missionary. It was just, you know what? The Christian life is not complicated. We complicate it. Yeah. And I read God's word and I just got it. This is what He wants me to do. You know what? We hear the gospel here all the time, and there are people who had never heard. So God had his hand on that, and then later on, I was in a meeting one night, and there was missionaries giving their testimony, and I was like on fire. I was like, I have got to go. But I thought I could just get on a plane and go and be a missionary. I was so naive. And then we talked to them afterwards, and they said you'd have to go to Bible school. Well, I mean, I did not like school. How am I ever going to do with a Bible school? I mean, that's not going to work for me. And I said, do you really, really have to? Well, yes, you do. So we joined a mission. At that time, I was 20. By that time, I was married. I was married at 18. And it was far too young. But you know what? I did it. And you know what? I look back, and that marriage didn't work out. And it probably was based on the fact that my brain hadn't actually developed very much by 18. And that's the reality of it. If you look into the what is it they call it? You know, if you look at the whole picture, your brain doesn't stop development till you're 25. How can you be married at 18? And by 20, I had my child. So here we are. We had to go to Bible college. And do you know what? I wouldn't trade 1 minute of it. But back to your question, the most pivotal. Sorry about that.
I don't think we have enough time tonight to go
really
through the rest.
about this, so I do. I went and I was a missionary, so I have travelled quite a bit and was involved in missionary work for 8 years and ended up living in Papua New Guinea for a year. So there, that's just...
Just throw that in there. Just
throw it in
lived
there.
in Papua New Guinea. Well, we'll come back to you, Lynn. So, Natalie, same with you. Same question as you. When did your journey sort of start, and was there a pivotal moment where you felt God sort of stood out the most?
Yeah, so I actually grew up with my dad being a pastor, and I definitely felt like I lived off of their faith for a while. I didn't really have, I believed in God. I would describe him as a distant uncle for me. He would show up at Christmas and Easter and maybe when I needed punished. So I didn't really understand God until I was 17, and my mom showed me Louis Giglio, one of his famous sermons. It was indescribable and how great is our God. And that's when the light bulb just kicked on. And for me, that was so pivotal because I just got it. I was like, oh my gosh, he loves me. And it just changed everything. My entire course changed, and that was when I was 17. And it also helped that I started going to a British church as well as my dad's church, because my dad's church didn't really have anybody my age at that time. So then having friends who were Christians, that also just changed everything for me. So, yeah.
Amazing, Natalie. And same with you, Anna.
I suppose I maybe touched a little bit on this one, but I'll maybe go back to my childhood. So I grew up going to a Catholic church, and I did believe in God, but I never understood that you could have a close relationship with God, as what you said, Natalie, about distant uncle, or maybe just praying and bartering with God. Oh God, if you help me pass this exam, I'll pray every night and things like that. And then at the age of maybe 14, 15, I completely walked away, didn't want to know anything about God. Then by age of 18 or even probably earlier, 16, I probably got drunk for the first time. I got in the wrong crowd, and I just spent my early 20s going out and partying and pretty much getting drunk every weekend. But I always knew there was more to life than that, and it always felt really empty, even though my life was very busy and it was filled with friends. It was very social and never fulfilling. So I moved over here when I was 26, and that's when my relationship with God started to kind of rekindle. I felt like I needed him back, and I felt like I needed some purpose in life, and going to work and coming back home and maybe going to the gym just wasn't enough for me. I just felt that there was more, and about maybe 29, 30, I had pretty much maybe a crisis with what am I going to do with my life. And I remember at that time I was going to one of the local chapels, and after a mass I just broke down and I cried out to God, please do something. I can't do this anymore. I don't know what to do with my life. I have no plan, and it's not working out my way, so do something. And then on the next day I went for a walk, I suppose, maybe to think about the plan for my life and what I'm going to do. And I've been approached by, well, my current husband, but I didn't know that then. But basically, he has showed me the church. He has asked me about my relationship with God. He was somebody that listened, and he's invited me to church. And at that time, I just felt, wow, God, I had that prayer yesterday, and today some random dude invites me to church.
He had other intentions, though, Anna.
Who knows? But I so needed that at that time, and God knew that, and I'm so thankful He did. He, and it just makes me think, how many times have we been passing through somebody who needs that, and we can have a conversation, we can have, we can invite them, we can tell them there's more, because I totally did not know about this whole world, about Christianity, about relationship with God, so it absolutely opened my eyes. And before I came, I had to find out if it wasn't a cult. So I went online and
I'm glad we passed the test, Anna.
And I went to my mass in the morning, and then after the mass I came here. And I just fell in love, got blown away, and it was the most amazing Sunday I remember. And since then I've just stayed. And yeah,
I do remember that first Sunday you came. It was lovely and sunny outside. I think it was
Yeah.
May time, wasn't it?
I think it was maybe first weekend of June. Yeah. So yeah.
That's so good, amazing, Anna. We'll move back to Lynn here. So obviously we've heard just a very condensed version of your life, Lynn, so far. What challenges have you faced that have tested your faith? And how did you hold on to hope in that situation?
Okay, I suppose if I wanted to put a banner over my life and a statement, it would be relationships. That has been the biggest challenge for me, I suppose. I can remember, I've given you a bit of insight into being a missionary. How can you, and I was in a very dark place a couple of years ago, just maybe a wee bit more than that. And I can remember thinking, how can you get to here from there? And I remember in Bible college, actually, there was a lecturer, and he walked in one day and he said, "Don't be mistaken, you're in Bible college today, but in 20 years' time, a fraction of you guys will be in Bible college mode or serving God on a mission field." And that, I came out thinking, what a thing to say. How ridiculous is that? But I lived to realise that can actually happen. And I think if we're all honest as believers, you can be so on the mountaintop one day and something can happen and you're not on the mountaintop the next day. You are thrown into a circumstance that just is beyond your control. So, to try and really condense it, I've had 2 broken down marriages. And the first one, I closed the curtains on the marriage myself. And I plummeted into a very deep depression after it. And that was guilt, born from guilt. And I thought, there's something not right here. I am never going to survive this. For 6 weeks, I lay in bed, my mum and dad beside me, and I lost 3 stone. I was really, I had a breakdown, to be fair, to be honest about it. But it wasn't that I was clinically depressed, it was that circumstantially things had happened to bring me to that place. And to be honest, I didn't know how I was going to survive that, but I did. And I can remember getting up one morning and thinking, I was in the shower, and I really thought there was something very, very bad wrong with me. I thought I had cancer or some illness because the weight was just walking off me, and I couldn't keep food down. And I got into the shower one morning, and I just lay in the shower. I slid down, and I just says, God, please help me. I don't know what is going on with my body, but I really need your help right now. And I got up out of the shower, and I am not making this up. I heard God's voice. This is going to be a process. This is not going to be an instant fix. And I got out of the shower, and I couldn't pray. I just could not see hope at all at that point in my life. And I had 4 small children. My youngest was like 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. And the thought of the future as a single parent with those small kiddies just completely, I suppose, wrecked me in the natural. However, God is so able to pick us up, and I am living proof of that. And He started a process that morning. And I went to church for the first time in a very long time. And I got my kids ready. And we went to a church in Belfast because I could not go. I just felt so judged around our town and around the church that I was in at that time. And we went to Belfast. And the kids, I can still hear them in the car, where are we going? And I'm like, we're going to church. Where's this church? And it was in Belfast. And I walked into it, and it was a Pentecostal church. And the love that I experienced from people who didn't even know me was incredible. There was a woman singing, and her husband was playing the piano. And music's always been a big thing in my life. I come from a family of singing and music. And she sang a song entitled "He Hung the Moon." And if He can throw the stars out in creation, if He can hang the moon in the sky, who are you to question Him? And I just became so just completely overtaken by the Holy Spirit that morning. And I had an encounter that I had never had before. And I have to say, it was nothing short of beautiful. I came home that day. I got the kids bathed and into bed. I lit the fire. I sat at the fire. I love the fire. Don't have a fire now, by the way. It's awful. But anyway, I sat at the fire, and I set the scene. Girls, don't ever hesitate to set the scene for some time with God. They are the best times that you will have with Him. I set the scene. I was so excited, and I lit the fire, and I put the worship music on, and it was worship music like I had never been used to, but a friend said, you should listen to that. I put it on. I was so blessed, and I cried, and I bawled, and it was like every hurt, every disappointment, every negative thing in my life just was wept out of me that night. And you know, that was an encounter. That was the Holy Spirit doing a work in my life. I didn't really understand what was happening, but I tell you one thing, I was very, very thankful. And that was a time whenever I started to just really experience hope demonstrated by God and by Jesus right there in my living room.
Wow. That was amazing, Lynn, and so encouraging. The same question for you, Natalie.
Yeah, so the past 4 years have been very challenging. COVID kicked it off for me. I'm a photographer and a blogger, and I do weddings, so I lost the majority of my wedding, so a lot of income instability. I lost the majority of my friends. We were living in London at this stage. Some of my best friends that I would have considered sisters, they all just drifted from me, and then that kicked off, like, what are we doing here in London right now? And then I moved countries, and then my dad had a stroke, and then I had some more income instability. I got cancer, and then my parents have moved away from last week. So, like, a challenge upon challenge upon challenge has just been happening over the past 4 years that has really just challenged my heart and my soul consistently. But I actually would love to read something that I saved from Catherine Wolfe. She inspires me so much. She had a brainstem stroke that should have taken her life, and she wrote an amazing book called Treasures in the Dark, Daily Reflection. So I'd love to actually read what she wrote. And she said, condition yourself to identify opportunities for hope rather than hopelessness. Anticipate hope, anticipate God's goodness. The difference maker between devastation and transformation is the presence of hope. When we choose to hope that good things could come from our worst days, we change for the better. And when we choose to believe divine love remains with us, even when there's no redemption in sight, we change for the better. Hope, I eventually learned, is an action. It must become a habit to be of much use. I named the God I knew, the God of purpose and second chances, so I could remember what to expect from him. I recalled his faithfulness to me in the past, so I could anticipate his future provision. Again and again, I affirmed what I knew to be true, even when I didn't feel it to be true. He brings beauty from ashes and turns mourning to joy, Isaiah 61:3. The habit of hope carried me when the feeling of hope failed me. And I felt that was very true for my life. I actually have a prayers answered list on my phone. I'm a girl of lists. I love lists. So I categorize them in all the different areas, like financial. I know I talked about income and stability, but the Lord has provided every single month, even the months that I lost weddings, etc. He's always provided. And yeah, I feel like recalling his faithfulness to me always inspires that hope. But also Ben Stewart said something. He said, when you can't trace his hand, you can trust his heart. And that just sticks with me a lot too.
Love that, Natalie. That's really encouraging. And Anna, same with you. Do you want me to read the question?
No, I am okay, yes. I'll try to be quick brief because might be triggering for some in here as well. But where I am today, being pregnant has been, to get here where I am, has been quite a long and painful process for me and my husband. To start with, we've been through almost 2 years of unexplained infertility. We've been diagnosed, checked from head to toe, and the doctors were just didn't have answers for us. And then last year, I finally was able to get pregnant. The first pregnancy lasted about maybe 9 days. I lost the baby at about 5 weeks. And then I got pregnant again last year, and I lost my second baby at 12 weeks. And that was the most traumatic, awful time of my life. And I've never been through anything harder than that. But it also has changed me forever. And the way God showed up for me in that time was just amazing. And I believe if I haven't been through that, my relationship with God wouldn't be where it is today. And through that process, I always knew that God had a plan, and I always trusted him that, even in the most difficult times, even in situations that maybe happened to me, not because of his will, but we live in a broken world and, bad things happen, he could use all that for my good if I let him. So I'll maybe touch on that a little bit later. Also wanted to say that Cradle and I was admitted to hospital the second time around, and I received the package, and it really, really helped me. It just made me feel more normal and loved, and it was unexpected and so special. So I'm so glad we're supporting that charity today.
Amazing. We'll stay with you, Anna. Just on the back of that, how have you seen God's provision then show up in that situation?
Yes, so through that whole process, I was surrounded by people who loved on me, and I had good friendship circle who would support me a lot. And in times when I didn't have faith or couldn't pray myself, those friends were there for me, and they were praying, and they believed for me. When I was admitted to hospital, the amount of love I received from NHS staff, I will never forget it. And my only prayer for that time was I just didn't want this to happen at home. And there were people that made it happen for me to be in a hospital, and I was looked after from every minute I was there, and I do see God's hand upon me from that time. I do see that it was supernatural, and I do believe that God just knew what I needed in that very time. Also, staying close to Him through that process, through even infertility, allowed me to hear from Him and get a few promises that I got that I thought would see me through, and they really did. So at the very start, when me and my husband were praying about expanding family, I was in worship, and I sensed that God was telling me, I will give you a healthy child. And that was at the very start of the journey, and I didn't understand what it meant. But throughout those years when we were trying and the difficult times, I believed that, and I held on to it, and I'm really hoping this is going to come to pass really soon. And there was another time when me and my friend were meeting, doing devotions together, and she was going through a season of waiting of her own, and she wasn't able to get married the year she was hoping, and it was due to unforeseen circumstances that were out of her control. So we were both kind of sitting in the room a little bit hopeless, I suppose, or maybe trying to encourage each other, but didn't have much faith for our own circumstance. And I just remember hearing from God, you are going to be pregnant at Laura's wedding. And
Amazing.
And in September 2024, Laura got married, and I was 26 weeks pregnant at her wedding.
Amazing.
I'm sorry.
So good.
I'll maybe finish here for now.
No. That was so good. And we'll go on to the next question, and I'll aim it at Natalie. And Anna talked on how she was so supported by the women that was around her, and how the importance of that was, and how his building relationships with, I know you're such a girly girl as well, Natalie, and you're such a good friend, like the importance of having women in your corner to sort of help you through those times. How have you found that has impacted your life, just having those people in your corner?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, starting from the beginning of my journey with God, even just the transformation of having people who believed in God when I was 17 was such a massive thing, to be able to not feel alone. I think what's so important is when you have friends who are like-minded, who love Jesus, you can encourage each other in not the wisdom of the world, but the wisdom of God, because I think we can get into the patterns of the world, et cetera, like just our day-to-day life, rather. And if we need encouragement from people who see things God's way and not the world's way.
Yeah.
And I think that makes the world of a difference, because when you don't feel hope, if you surround yourself with women, especially who aren't Christians, they don't have true hope, the truth to give you. But when you surround yourself with godly women, they have truth to give you, to encourage you, to lift your spirits, and to mourn with you, to cry with you, and to say, hey, that's not great that happened to you, but God has more for you. And so I think, God is always in... I love this theme throughout the Bible, that everything, it's all a redemption story. And so when we go through these hard times, it's like, no, there's redemption on the other side of this. This isn't it. The trial isn't where it ends. And so you need people to come behind you and be like, this isn't it. There's gonna be more. God has so much more for you. And so I feel like it makes a world of a difference to have women around you who remind you of that.
No, that's so good, and it's so true. Just to have that sort of perspective of knowing that there's always more that God wants to do in us. We are going to finish off. I realise for the time, I think we could just have a night for one person. There's so much coming out. We'll finish off with a couple of questions, and this is a cue to let the girls go get the tea, coffee ready. Lynn, what encouragement would you give to women who maybe are walking through a discouraging season in their own journey right now? What would you sort of like advise them in sort of practical steps?
Well, Natalie has touched on it there about being surrounded by godly women, which is really important. I do have a mentor, not in the church here, outside. That Sunday school teacher when I was 3 is actually my mentor today. And she is the most incredible woman of God. And she will send me the most incredible messages to encourage me, to coach me on. She's my biggest cheerleader, and we all actually need that. But the one advice I would give is to be honest and be real with your friends and the people that God puts in your path. Yeah. He never, ever makes any mistakes in the people we meet. It's all part of his plan. And I would say be real. Stop the fake. Stop covering up. Stop pretending that everything's okay. Girls, none of us are all right. If it was really all peeled back, there's none of us all right. And we all do need encouragement. We need built up. But you know, how are people going to reach us where we're at if we're not real and honest about where we are at? It's not possible. We're just playing a game. So there, you know, for those of you that have got to know me, I am a very real person. Probably sometimes do overshare a wee bit, but I'm working on that. Be patient with me. But honestly, I just feel and Anna's touched on it, we live in a very broken world, full of broken people, and people who need the Lord, people who have the Lord who need encouragement. Everybody we meet is fighting a battle, their own battle, the struggles they have. But you know what? Do you see every struggle that I've had in every journey, every part of the journey that's been difficult? It's only those things that I've actually grown through. Yeah. It's only those things that have brought me to a place where I realise, hold on a minute, I'm not in control here. Yeah. That it is God, the God of the universe, who's in control. And I would say, over and above all of that, the greatness of God, be your own best friend. Yeah. Think in a situation, what would Jesus want me to do here? Jesus set a fabulous example to each one of us. And the one thing that I have been teaching myself over the past while is be my own best friend. Whatever that advice is that you would give to your girlfriends, take that advice yourself. Yeah. Be kind to yourself. Do you know what? If you need to go and have a bit of fun, if you need to put a smile on your face, go do it. Don't hesitate. Don't feel bad. Don't feel guilty about it. We have got this thing, we should always be running our lives all the time. God wants us to walk. He wants us at a walking pace, and he wants us to be still, because he has some things that he wants to tell us. And that is, you know, that's what's coming to mind now. Obviously there's loads, but I feel Jude doesn't want me to talk too much. So
am I giving you that glare on the side of your head? You just feel me looking at you.
So yeah, that's my advice to you all, girls.
Amazing, Lynn. And same with you, Natalie. What encouragement, to finish with, would you give someone who's maybe walking through a discouraging season?
I would say, so back when I started dating my husband when I was 20, he said to me, we read the Bible every day. That's just what we do. And I was like, oh, okay. Because I had just done devotions here and there. But then I started sticking at it. And it has changed my life entirely. Like Lynn said, set the scene. So one thing I do, and prioritize God above all, prioritize him in your everyday above anything else you're doing. So I set the scene, as Lynn would say. I have my God chair, and I make matcha every morning, a different matcha. It's great, it's fabulous. And then I just have time with the Lord. I love this app called Through the Word. And I read through commentary. I just do a chapter a day, but it's amazing because I just have that time with God. It centers me. It takes away any anxiety. I leave it all at the feet of the Lord, and it gives me moments to be still. So that's what I would say. Prioritize time with God because your life will just change radically.
Love that, prioritize. It's something that definitely we can all do. I know as a busy mom of 3, prioritize up the list of daily time with God is definitely a must. And Anna?
I think I'm just going to second what the girls said here. First of all, stay close to God, because how can you trust someone who you don't know? How can you be led by somebody you can't hear from? And I think, I was challenged by that as well. And I'm doing daily Zoom devotions at the minute from Monday to Friday. If anybody's interested, you're more than welcome to join. It's at 7 a.m. But before that, I was always struggling to get a good routine, and just a thought popped in my head. If you have time to scroll on your phone and social media, you have time for God.
Yeah.
And that just called me out clean, and I was just right. No more excuses, no more complaining that I'm tired after work. God can speak to me when I'm tired. God can speak to me at any time. I just need to make myself available. And that was life-changing, as Natalie said. And then also staying close to your community, because when you isolate yourself and when you are in your difficult season, you are more likely to isolate yourself. That's when the Satan will strike, and that's when he's going to tempt you, and that's when he's going to maybe put something in your head to do something that you maybe wouldn't do in your comfort. Maybe start dating somebody who's not good for you, or just make choices that are not good for you. And you need those people around you who's going to cheer you on, support you, and speak some wisdom into you. When I was preparing yesterday, I actually wrote down, I opened my journal from last year and the year past, and I think there was an entry from one of the most difficult times I've been through, and what I read was something I really didn't like, but I think I should read it out loud to maybe just show you the importance of community around you. So I just wrote down, I feel so lonely in my suffering, and it's not because there is nobody around me to support me, but nobody around me knows that I need the support. So how can you get help if nobody knows that you need help? So that's my encouragement for you. Thankfully, that season for me didn't last long, and I did open myself to people, but there's definitely that temptation that you will go into your little shell, and then the Satan will strike. So, yeah, that's me.
Amazing, Anna. And I think just even to finish it off with, you're highlighting the importance of just having 1 or 2 close people that you can trust on, that you can open up and share. Because we've heard it before, we're not supposed to do life alone. And it's so important that we don't withdraw, because that's what the enemy wants. He wants us to withdraw from church, from friends, from life. He just needs you to open up. And obviously, whenever you're walking through those difficult situations, you don't necessarily want to hear what's right, but your friends are going to be there to support you to walk it until you sort of gather yourself and get back on track.